Hey there, here's just a little progression on that diagonal swing. So number one, this is an exercise for integration, integrating lower body and upper body together. So a lot of core activation. And it is also a multi-planar movement. So all three planes of motion are in play, which makes it more complicated, than those kinds of movements that are single plane. So let's start from that staggered stance. So we're taking essentially a lunge active stance here and doing it just body weight. I'm going to twist just to one side and my hands will come down and then up. So I'm going to trace this diagonal movement. And strong abs, I want to feel my coiling and uncoiling. I'm primarily driving force from the front foot, and then I'm finishing somewhere around my shoulder. So this is the movement that I want you to be able to feel, and maybe that will help you get a better feel for what the diagonal is about. The next progression could be to add a weight. And notice that I'm not using a ton of momentum here. It's a little bit more linear, even though the path of travel is curved, but I'm not throwing this with pendulum and with momentum. So I'm not throwing it, there's no float, I'm just engaged with the weight. But again, I can feel that coiling and uncoiling, especially around in my core and especially down in my foot. So what we've been doing is doing this from swings between the legs. So I'm using that same diagonal principle. So the bell is going out about a 45 degrees, and it can be done with two arms or one arm. And I did that, I thought it'd be easier because we're doing something that's more familiar to another movement you've done. Maybe it's not that, maybe it wasn't more familiar. But that would be the next progression of now adding some momentum, but doing it in a way that's more similar to how you've done other movements. I can more easily feel that coil and uncoil on the one arm. But again, one arm is a little bit more challenging than two arms. So then the last progression would be to do this pendulum style where I have a little bit of momentum and I'm going to coil a little bit deeper. So the big difference here is instead of holding my weight in my hands, I'm holding it on the handle. So with this weight, because it's not balanced in my hands, it's distal from the joint. That's what makes it kind of floppy and require a lot more control and stabilization, and why this is much harder than holding onto a weight, holding onto like a dumbbell or a medicine ball. That's what makes this much harder. So here, this two hand diagonal, and then here would be the one hand diagonal. Now if the weight's heavy enough, I do these like a clean. And just because it's a little bit harder, so I grab a heavier weight. It's a little bit harder to swing it up and not have to overly use my arm. So I'll throw it all the way back up here to a clean. That way. And then the bell has a place to go. It's hard to float on one arm and be in control of that trajectory because it's going this way instead of just floating straight up. Anyway, there's a little progression, and hopefully some of that helps to help you feel your body, what that diagonal movement is all about. It's kind of like one half of the twist, but really emphasizing side and side. It's kind of why I put them together, the cycle. I hope that helps, and let me know if I can be of more help.